Hey everyone, I'm your host Jack the Generalist, and today we're diving deep into art and philosophy of game lighting with one of the most respected voices in the field, Maria. For those of you who don't know her, she's a principal lighting artist, also a BAFTA member, and someone who's brought iconic game worlds to life from like AAA studios to the globe. Okay, first question to you, Maria, is let's start with the basics: who you are and what do you do in your own words.
All right. Yeah. So hello again, guys. Thanks for having me, Jake. So yeah, I'm Maria. I've been in games industry for 13-ish years, working as a video game lighting artist. So I've been worked for multiple AAA shooting games such as Far Cry and Gears 5, and also I involved plenty of under like development titles. I've been worked with multicultural studios from China, Shanghai to Britain, in London and Manchester, and also in Los Angeles. For now, I'm settled in London and I'm currently working with Romero Games, and we are still doing like FPS games over here. And thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, so I wanted to start with things like what is a lighting artist? I think that is something a lot of people who are starting out they don't really choose to be, or it's something you come across, I feel, or if you worked in industry for a while you would know what it is. I just happen to be knowing what it is because it was one of my first tasks in the industry is to create lighting and bake lighting for like a VR experience. That's what I've done in the beginning of my career. So I wanted for you to explain it to complete new beginners who just like listening to the podcast right now.
Right. So yeah, it's a very interesting question because I believe most of my fellow artists they are coming from similar journey as yourself, Jake. So they probably touched other 3D discipline in the game development, such as texturing, modeling. But I myself actually never trained for games. I was actually trained for photography and stage design because I studied photography and filmmaking back to my uni. And back then, there's no such a subject specific towards video game development. So yeah, in 2007, I came to Britain and in London in particular studied stage design. It was a master degree in Kingston University. But what I do back then, because it's a master degree, so it's more for like research. Everybody has their own freedom to choose a topic. So I choose the exhibition, space design and plus stage design. So basically, I was doing set design in this like or production design in film terminology.
Mm-hmm.
So that is where I start. But I've always loved to play video games. So yeah, at some point I'm like, oh yeah, I'll probably never get the chance to involve this profession because back then that
Mm.
was 2007, and I know little about softwares and coding. So as an art student in our brand, you have to get be super smart to involved into game development because you must know like coding, mathematics, or even physics for the animation, right?
Mm.
So yeah, and occasionally, because I was playing with my friend at her place, we were playing the first Mirror's Age. I believe I told this story many times in the my article and other podcast. But yeah, I found like in the end of the credit there is a credit called lighting artist,
Wow.
and at that very moment my eyes are blinking. Trust me, Chick. Yeah, like after decades I still remember it. It's
Nice.
like, wait a minute, I know how to light, and so if I could figure out how to transfer my light into video games, I can probably work in this industry.
Mm.
That's where I start. So I start doing my research back then. The 3D Artist, the magazine. Like if anybody study game dev in Europe, they probably know that magazine very well.
Mm.
So that's where I get like free tutorials, and eventually from the magazine, I saw forums like Polygon, and back then I think it's VFX forum, and what else I've got. 3D bus, yeah, of course, yeah, because 3D bus, like literally, I learned how to use Maya over there by
Mm.
myself. And by the time I was about to graduate from my university in England, so of course I'm looking for a job. And back then I recall I was doing like a part-time job, like basically like a runner, how they call them these days, in theaters. So I was working as a runner and freelance photography, mainly for fashion, because that's what I was trained for. So I'm quite like feel comfortable swimming in that water.
Mm.
So yeah, I was basically like self-sustained, and then I registered myself a course which is teaching me how to use Unreal and Unity, and I think that was like a private run course. It's pretty much like our bootcamp course these days. You know, you get them
Mm.
online, but back then you have to be on site, and the school will sign you up with like a multiple subscription. Back then I think it's normal and not escape, but normal workshop definitely. So that's where I started. You know, I got assignment and I started practicing, and yeah, that's pretty much the journey. The first like a glow, I hit a lot of hurdles when I'm trying to learning. You know, modeling, especially the vertex and the beveled edges. That's so difficult for me. But how I feel like when I start touching the rendering part, that is the camera and the mental ray, I think years ago I did an interview with Mr. Ryan Kingsley, and he was asking me something similar. It's like, how are you feeling the camera you were touching in 3D and the real world? And honest user feedback, that's exactly the same. So suddenly I feel like, okay, this is my place. I'm gonna start
Mm.
like developing here from here. And eventually I built up my portfolio and did some internship at a Chinese outsource company. Yeah, and after that, I got my first job in Ubisoft. So that's where I started working Far Cry. That was 2012-ish.
Wow. That was Far Cry 3 or Far Cry 4?
Far Cry 4. Far Cry 4.
Wow. Yeah, that game looked gorgeous, that's for sure. What a journey. So basically you were
Yeah.
able to take your physical skills in photography and in staging, let's say, or lighting in the actual
Yeah, set
world.
design.
Yeah,
Mm.
set design basically, yeah. And you were able
Mm.
to translate that into the CG space, the 3D world.
Yeah.
But here's the question for you. In real life, you have everything set for you. So if you go to a
Mm-hmm.
church, you want to film something, a church is, set up.
Mm.
You don't need to design the church anymore. How much
Yeah.
of that do you do in CG? Is it
Mm.
all ready for you, the assets?
Actually,
A
a
lot.
lot,
Okay.
because yeah, we are familiar with blockbuster like film shooting, but
Mm.
trust me, in most of the cases, because back then I was just a graduate, like basically a fresh talent, right?
Yeah.
So most of my clients they are equally like a fresh talent designer. I recall I involved in a very interesting collaboration with a bunch of fashion designer. They're just about to graduate from London School of Fashion, so that's one place trained plenty of like a famous designer,
Wow.
like yeah. Jimmy Choo and yeah, plenty of them, Kate Moss, I believe. So they're in central London, and we usually like in most of my film or like a photo shooting case, I still
Mm.
need to plan the weather ahead. If you go field shooting, you either go super early or super late because that's where the lighting gonna look nice,
Mm.
interior or exterior.
Yeah.
Because most of the fashion stuff, like they will request a pretty epic set. So
Mm.
usually we will figure out a way to add the fog or like wet the floor and make everything looks more interesting than the
Mm.
actual life should be.
Mm.
And those skills, when I jump into 3D, they become such a blessing because usually in my personal work, how I tackle it, of course, I can easily figure out and find a very nice set or
Mm.
a package like environment from the Epic Marketplace.
Yeah.
Now it's from Fab. Yeah. But after that, if I want this thing to, express my base, like my own idea,
Mm.
then I still have to do a little bit of makeup. So yeah, the lighting artist job, I recall you asking about that. So usually imagine we are basically makeup artists for games. So
Mm.
that's how I explain my job to my mom. So
Oh.
yeah, I think that makes the best sense. So usually it's like, well, we have the base, we have the amazing game, there's lots of interesting mission, but how to provide a immersive experience or like unusual experience which the player or the audience they couldn't experience in their day-to-day life, and
Mm.
that is our job and that is also our creative goal. So to me I think it's a job delivers overall experience, but
Oh.
adding lighting.
Hmm.
but usually the lighting is based on the amazing environment work and based on the environment design. So I think it's more like we are just makeup artists to help reveal the amazing work of our environment artist.
That's a very interesting point there. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you say makeup, you
Mm-hmm.
probably it's not as simple as you grabbing a brush and doing the makeup. When it comes to CG, you probably need to know and understand a lot of pipelines, kind of being a generalist in a way, because you would
Mm-hmm.
have to play around with materials. You will have to play around with placements. You would have to play around with particles, so such as you know Niagara or VFX graph. You're kind of are needed to do visual effects in a way. I would imagine. There's a lot of technical things. So can you explain what if you're a makeup artist and what are the tools you're using in Unreal or
Yeah.
other
So
engines?
in general, like, when if we use makeup progress as a terminology, the foundation which we apply here for Unreal will always be the sun and skylight because that is what controls your overall contrast level and the overall mood. So that will be the foundation. And then comes to the brush. So usually if we do makeup, the goal is to pop out the character's contour, right?
Mm-hmm.
So on top of the base, we need to do a bit of structure emphasize work. And that comes to the local lighting, which I preferably to call them lighting design because after, guaranteed the visibility of the overall level, it's our job to tell the audience or player where to look
Mm.
and where to go and also how would this
Mm.
place might feel because if this is like a cemetery it could be nice and warm with plenty of nostalgia sweet memories or it could be quite creepy. It's all depending on how we light it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And after that, the scene is being set, the mood has been told, so does the time. And then the next step will be to make him more impressive. So how we do that comes with secondary or like support lighting effect. That is where we start to think about how the light will collaborate with any particle effect. It could be water, it could be splash,
Mm.
could be bubbles, or maybe smoke. Smoke and jet stream is a very like common effect I'm using because
Mm.
wherever we have like insufficient lighting power, but we want the image looks like smoothly nice between the transition between bright and dark area. That's where the fog comes in. So usually this is the three major section you have to think about, but the order doesn't have to always be the same because it's really depending on the scale of the thing, the mood of the thing, and also like how the player gonna walk in. Are they gonna run in through it? Are they
Mm.
gonna stay there for a while? Or depending on the game, if it's a puzzle game, you probably want to tell more story by addressing certain area. But if it's a FPS shooter game, you
Mm.
probably the player only worry about how may I survive, right? So you need to tell them where to go.
Yeah, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
you're in a way you're enlightening them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you keep everything open, there's no mystique anymore or no hidden stuff anymore that could
Yeah,
require a challenge. But at the same time, you also need to make sure that they're seeing the path where they need to go. And here's the thing, you as a lighting artist, I feel like you know those rules and you kind of know where to break them if necessary.
mm-hmm.
Because like in some games, it's probably for in certain circumstances it's maybe better to not show the players where to go, in a way, right? I would imagine you had to go
Exactly.
through that yourself too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like either you tell a riddle or you're showing people around. It's more come to the designer's intention. So
Mm.
a huge discussion I usually will involved in my pre-production stage is I'm gonna speak to my designer, say, hey, what type of experience you wanna deliver in this very mission? So if it's an escort mission, of course, guidance will be more important. And if this is a group combat mission and we just joking, it's like let's give everybody 90-degree spotlight. They wouldn't see it, but the enemy will see them quite well. So good luck, guys.
That's like cheating. in a way.
Yeah, but you can make the game more difficult
Mm,
intentionally, or you can just make
true.
this guide easier. So the job role is like I'm a half tour guide, half makeup artist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to ask how much of when you're in a team, who are you
Mhm.
talking to? Is it everybody, including the
Oh,
designers? Like,
everybody.
yeah. Can you tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about that?
everybody. But that's like a different stage. It's like it's no difference like running a show. It's like I like use my stage design like course a lot
Mm,
just because it's pretty much like that because at the beginning of course art director and the designers that will be like my main conversation target because the designer will give me the skeleton, the backbone of the mission,
mm,
and the art director gonna give me the vision, and my job is like keep them running, hit certain amount of the frame depending on the console, but also like take that into account, meanwhile try to achieve the best looking as much as possible. Yeah.
yeah.
And in the development stage, I would say environment artist is who I spoke to every day, just because they are start, dressing up, bring this world alive from the white meshes, and there is some like potential bugs or risks.
Mm,
See if we are doing a forest and if the wood is very dense, then I'll probably tell them, oh, we don't need everyone to cast a shadow just because it just brings like less ideal transition light wise or heavy
mm-hmm.
the budget on performance. So yeah, it's plenty of like it's very minor. Most of the conversation is minor, but it's very frequent. So for like pre-production, I probably have one or two kickstart meeting and that's it. But during the development with environment artist, we basically speak every day. And in the end of the production, of course, when FX start jumping, because me and my role, lighting and VFX or even sound, we are pretty much like the very last few department will touch the project before it's ready to go, it's before
Mm,
it's ready to shipping. So what we'll do at that point is like bug fixing or like if there's some problem and we have to fix them together, because at the final stage, like the later stage of the game development,
mm-hmm.
the little margin you will have when trying to fix something, but perhaps at this certain point we couldn't change the time of day anymore, or we
Mm,
couldn't move some certain environment asset anymore because that's actually a cover in the mission. So yeah, it's like your freedom will be slowly become like options on your table will be slowly become like little by little,
mm.
but usually at that point stability overcomes more visual polishment. So usually I will try to deliver the final look, like visual or artistic look, at the second last stage
Mm.
rather than save them last minute because that's gonna be too risky.
Yeah. I mean, one aspect
Mm,
of your work is, if I'm a listener and I don't
mm,
know much about game development, I would think, you're playing with like real time lights, putting this here, putting that there. Everything is flexible. It's all easy. What is the aspect of lighting artists' work that people don't know that is extremely unflexible?
Okay, so I would say a funny part is I love real-time lighting, especially lumen, because it makes the light behave pretty much like how it should be in real world.
Mm,
But yeah, the stress part is actually very hidden. So I teaching for a while, and some of my students told me like, Maria, I am very panicking when I'm just to get the level and drop the first light,
mm,
and without explanation, I told my student says like, yeah, I totally feel you, just because the first light or even like a sun angle like 5-degree sun angle could drastically change the overall look. So a fun part and the pain part of my job
mm,
is you do a tiny action but make thousands of decisions behind it.
mm,
So we have to training our eyes the prediction of the ability to read like devils in the detail, or like see if I fix one problem by changing the certain light source, angle, brightness, color, do I create another problem somewhere else? And that is a part two. The last part is the most difficult and it takes years of training. I do believe there's no other way to achieve it. That is, we do lighting, but it's not for movie or photography. So
mm.
the player gonna running all over around. So how do we like keep whatever we have and just to make sure this light rigging will look nice as nice as possible in multiple angles.
wow, you have to keep a lot of stuff in your mind, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, just to watch over everything, meanwhile doing like tiny jobs. Sometimes, like, no joke, Jake, I could spend my whole morning just to think about and figure out a sound angle.
Yeah, yeah. It's it tells everything. It's you kind of decide what the player is seeing in a way, right? And that is a huge job to have. It's a
Absolutely.
huge
Yeah.
responsibility. If you're the
Yeah.
one deciding what they're going to see, you're the sun, you're the lights. It's a huge responsibility, that's for sure. And I wanted to go a
Yeah.
little bit back to learning, and one question I ask my guests sometimes, especially like the more established ones as yourself, what would
Thank you.
you do if you want to learn lighting art right now with all the resources that are available?
I think it's a very good timing if anyone wants to break the ice and join to like this profession. Well, of course, the industry, the market will always have high and lows.
Yeah.
But for now, I would say compared to when I decided to switch my profession from field lighting to video game lighting, there are so much free resource. Like there's a YouTube channel, there's people doing like yourself doing podcasts for knowledge sharing, so it's really easy to do the research part. And also, back to my first topic, I do think art foundation, especially if you do lighting, then understand the foundation of digital on the tradition of photography is really helpful because apertures, exposure, the zoom theories about control the contrast, they are working exactly the same in Unreal.
Mm.
And for real-time lighting, if guys doing like a field lighting and if they transfer into like a 3D lighting, I think they're gonna have very similar feeling like myself. It's like though yeah, I need to spend plenty of time to familiar myself with the software, the workflow, and the bug fixing. That's something quite new. But the at the end of the day, the sense of prediction is very important to us as a lighting artist. And
Mm.
I'm not talking about random guessing or, tarot cards, future telling stuff. It's the ability of predict issue when you see the case and you're able to predict where we might have the issue or what might cause an issue later.
Mm.
So the more practice you've done, I think basically keep making mistakes. And the last part, I would say, if you want to learn lighting, do find some type of style. Find your favorite movie, find your favorite like director of photography, and watch those movies over and over again. That's what I do. I still watch like really old movie like Pan's Labyrinth. And yeah, we just do like repeat that all the time. Yeah,
Mm.
I think that helps a lot.
Just a note, we lost your
Mm.
camera for a second there, but yeah, you're
Yeah,
you're
I see my
right.
camera. Yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Shall we pause here and you need to restart?
if you could disable it and enable it again, that
Okay,
would
I'll
be
try it
great.
again. Yeah,
Let's just keep
that's very
trying. Maybe
interesting.
it
Yeah.
works again. But like, yeah, you are totally right
Okay,
when it
it should
comes
work.
to like resources out there. Yeah, I see you again. Perfect. There's a
Yeah.
lot out
Okay.
there, and there was a lot out there before there was a lot out there in meaning of courses and
Yeah.
online courses and universities.
Mm.
We all stand on the shoulders of giants. Like even the black and white movies back in the day, they were masters. Like you could just watch one good old movie and study the composition they were doing because they didn't have colors. The composition had and must have been perfect all the time. And compositions is a combination between assets placements and camera positioning, zoom, and lights. Lights is a huge part of that. How much of those are you doing in your work? Like we get it, like lighting artist, of course, you're doing the lights, but are you also touching on the positioning of the assets, the zooming of the camera, and so on?
Yeah, it's very often for the zooming of the camera. Definitely, like if we work with characters and if we work with cinematics, that's absolutely yes. And usually, game development in terms of lighting is no difference than what I experienced like the backstage of the
Yeah.
fashion show or a musical. So on the surface, everything looks great.
Mm.
And imagine there's hundreds of people running around and totally not looking panic, and there's problem keeps popping out and we keeps fix it. So
Mm.
usually there is no like solid rules like, oh, you must do A and B. But what happened is like if there's a problem and find the right department and the right skillful person to fix it. So expect, of course, lighting as a profession, we oversee everything. So in that case, having the knowledge of every discipline is absolutely necessary. And I'm still learning new stuff every day from my environment teammate
Mm.
and my colleagues from FX. So one thing I do love this job is like not like in theater because every day the team pays the cost money, and we are also restrictively limited by the choreography, the power shortage, because you can't get too much light, otherwise people on the stage get burned.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also fire security, if nobody think about that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the actual like limitation. Usually we just joke, if you run a show, the most important person is your truck driver because he's gonna deliver everything you need. And but in games, I would say like yeah, we have similar problem, almost exactly the same problem. But a parameter could be your friend,
Yeah.
or your colleague could fix you like in no time, and
Yeah.
you just need to do a Slack call with them. I think that's magical coming from like traditional theaters. Of
Yeah.
course, I myself has been in the games industry for more than 10 years now, and I think most of the mistakes I've encountered or I made in my past also benefits a lot. So I would say the most difficult part is never about start learning, but the most difficult part is keep it going. So I would say to anyone who is looking for get into this industry, build up your portfolio, and no matter like how clumsy at the beginning you think it could be, but well, if you don't have the first piece, and it will never start. And once you start it, I hope you never give up. Yeah.
I agree with you. I wanted to ask, like, you've been working all around the world, right? You've been in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, you've been in Germany, China, you mentioned as well, and the US. Has
Mm-hmm.
each place shifted how you approached art or collaboration, depending on cultures, and how was that?
Yeah, I think yeah, different place. I do sense different culture, and I think I've been lucky enough. Like most of the the negative side of our industry so far, I rarely experienced that. Of course, I will have professional opinion conflicts,
Mm.
but usually we all aims to resolve the issue. So thankfully, there's no drama in my past decades of industrial experience. And culture-wise, I do learn a lot from everybody because, like, some place the culture is all about straightforward. And well, I think among those countries, I've lived in England the longest because for now I've been living in London for more than 12 years. And how I feel is I kind of like the culture here. It's like we do talk about the problem, but yeah, I don't know. Some well, people have different opinion, but I would
Mm.
say English culture is like we will point it out, but in a very gentle way. So
Yes.
I quite like that.
Mm.
It's like well, the last thing I want back to my university study days is like if I show my project and my professor says, ah, interesting. I know I'm so dead because that means they're not interested in at all. So
Oh no.
that's something, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that takes me a while to understand. But I would say different culture, I do feel like it takes a bit of time to understand. Of course, at the beginning, you could be very defensive.
Mm.
You could be very enclosed just because, like, for me, it's like I don't speak German at all. Even I worked at Crytek Frankfurt. It's a very well, like, English speaking city, but sometimes I still, like, encountered, like, the culture difference.
Yeah.
But I think in Germany, like, my local colleague will tell me, like, if there's a problem, speak them out. Nobody cares, like, well, if you, like, sounds a bit too straightforward because that's, like, the way how they communicate,
Yeah.
and that's great.
Mm.
And when I went to America, it's like yeah, because well, I come from China, so originally I'm Chinese. So in our culture, Asia culture would be it's a bit like fall back. It's like we are very worried about offended others, or we never try to attract the attention to ourselves
Yeah.
because we feel like that's not humble. But in America, it's like if people have a voice, they will speak them out, and somehow I think it's quite cool, like at the right place, especially if we talk about creative ideas. Because in Asia, I would say like, if it's in a meeting, the old me will think about it,
Mm.
but not speak them out. And I worry like, what if I say something out? It's not make much sense. I'm wasting everybody's time.
Yeah.
But after work like abroad a years like later, I'm like, okay, maybe we could try that, and we can take this offline. I'll present my idea later, but I just want to let you guys know I have this idea right now. So I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Mm,
so interesting with different cultures and different
it
ways
is.
and different
Mm,
approaches. That's like game development is very much a people's business. Like on both sides, you have people creating experiences for other people, people playing those. But like what happens behind the scenes of like developing a game, I think a lot of people don't know the fact that it every game is novel in its own way. Like no one knows, no one comes and plans games like they are like it's a car, right? A car, like we humans so far have pretty good idea how cars are should be manufactured, and there's a process, there's a factory, there's the parts. We have a pretty good idea. There's an infrastructure there. But with games, each game is its own genre. It's like although there's so much categorization and education around it, it's still an area undiscovered because what we do is we create worlds, literally, and then we skin those worlds with like assets and lights and everything else, but each project is novel on its own. So if you don't know how to communicate, doesn't matter how good you are in what you do, the game will suffer at the end. The quality of the game will suffer. That's why people see like those AAA games fail often, because they get the look, they get the functionality, but somewhere, between the lines, they maybe have hired two or three people who are really good at what they do, but they are bad communicator. Have you ever faced that in your industry
Yeah,
experience? I mean, yeah.
totally. What I have experienced is not about a bad communicator. It's sometimes like people will be, say, for example, if you are developing the like subsequent or like continuous series of a very well established genre,
Yep.
usually those regulation not really coming from a director. It's like I wouldn't name the studio, but I would say most of people they wanna play safe because, like I said, well, Triple A's is like a blockbuster movie,
Mm.
so there is a huge budget, but also it brings up huge risk.
Huge
So
risk.
people want to play safe.
Yep.
That is my humble opinion as a game development because it's like in the end, like take my job as example. I got bugs, plenty of them at the final stage. Usually the last 2 weeks before we, properly close the gate. Like, okay, that's it. We're gonna ship it.
Mm.
But most of the bugs they come in last stage, and they are not even caused by me. So it should be like a tech error, build difference, and that's very common. But usually because of the panicking, the mood. Sometimes in my job, or like I heard from my FX artist friends, we probably gonna face lots of pressure. It's not like people gonna, criticize your work. It's like, oh, we running out of time. Can you
Mm.
guys please fix it?
Mm.
But in the end of the day, we will find out this problem is not caused by us. But of course, imagine you wake up Monday morning, you open your email or like you open your Slack chat.
Yeah.
There's 10 people after you and they all talk about different problems.
Ooh.
So usually I would say, do not panic. It's just another Monday.
Wow. 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 Yeah, this is really like behind the scenes
Mhm.
aspect of it. We like
Yeah.
we are. I feel like I'm a VFX artist, right? You're a lighting
Mhm.
artist. We come at the last stages of the production,
We are.
and
Mhm.
usually we're not like onboarded very well.
Mhm.
Um, so what happens is when there's like something that's not working, it's always our fault or something, or because we need to be onboarded, in my opinion, way before they actually onboard us, because we need to be able to navigate the vision of the game. We need to navigate the creation of the assets. We're not just gonna snap our fingers and make the effects right or make the lighting work pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as.
Yeah, usually like in my case, I would say thankfully, like I said, in most of the studio I've been worked with, like I do heard unfortunate stories from my fellow artists, but like as lighting, we onboard very early. That's like at the
That's good.
beginning, like when the level is not a level, it's just like a design white box. So say if I saw like there's a valet and then the designer want completely dark night, I'll tell you, hey, it won't work. If you go in the center of the canyon, your player will suffer the visibility, and there's no way we could fix it apart from adding millions of light. And later you're gonna complain for the frame rate, right? So that wouldn't work. Yeah. So, but I get it for FX because I heard some of my indie friends like, cause I do like consultations for like small studios and indie mainly for lighting workflow, and also I do mentorship. So, but most of my mentorship they are like industry based like established artists, so I don't really help students at this point, but I just do lots of like reviews and help them find the problem and refine their pipeline. So I get a chance to know like sometimes the VFX team, because they are not part of the studio because they're quite costly,
Yeah.
so they will get on board for the very project at last 2 weeks. So basically
Yeah.
guys gonna jump in, get some fog, sprinkle some particles over there, and the most ridiculous request I've heard is like create a avalanche within 2 days. I'm like, that's not gonna happen.
No.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, communication and the timing, and also it. I would say if there is something drastically like affect the developer side, usually it's a budget. That's my humble opinion. Yeah, budget
Yeah.
and timing, and sometimes most of these problems they're coming out of our control. So there's nothing we can do. Yeah.
So
Mm.
obviously, you came from being a beginner in 2007. You
Mm.
mentioned all the way to becoming like a
Mm.
BAFTA member. What do
Mm-hmm.
people not know about BAFTA? What is
Mm.
BAFTA? How was that? What does giving back to you
Yeah.
mean?
Okay. So yeah, BAFTA stands with, it's a super long name. I'll try to remember. So it's the British Academy of Film and Television.
Cool.
So it's such a long name, but basically they are like some say they are just like Oscar Association in Europe, in particular in the UK, because BAFTA in general is like a supportive organization. Of course, you have to be like to prove you have certain industrial track, like 5 years or 10 years in the industry, or you work in London, or you have shipping titles as games. So the application progress is pretty much like a job. It's like you have to show them your LinkedIn
Mm.
and track the ship title. But the giving back is like I have met lots of like industrial friends, and because I joined it just because back then I just moved back from LA to London. So of course I would like to expanding my social work a bit more. Well, living in London for many years, I do have plenty of friends in my personal life, but it's different, like, like expanding the professional network. So that was my initial goal. And also, BAFTA will involve you to, get a panel if there's new games, you can participate it, and for the judge if you want. And also, you experience more resource. And also, they do monthly meetup. I think it's pretty good. Like if you want to have some industrial like related network. Also, it's quite chilling. They have like a fantastic location in central London.
Mm.
So yeah, we have like a monthly meetup. I saw lots of my ex-colleague over there. So I guess that's a benefit for being in this industry for a while. Eventually the BAFTA meetup becomes like sort of my, like industrial friends gathering because we can see each other once a month and nobody has to organize it, which is pretty good.
Wow, that sounds amazing, especially if you could
Yeah.
like socialize and keep up to
Yeah,
date
because it's
with
actually
everyone.
very chill. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
like everybody goes there for the whole night. We talk about business. In fact, we just check like how's it going. We talk
cool.
about interesting movies. The topics.
That's awesome. That's all. I wish there was something like that also for people with like two
Yeah,
years of experience and not just British, but like kind of like a
indeed.
global
Yeah.
movement.
Yeah, that's how I run my Discord server. Like a bit of side story
Yeah,
is like
tell.
when I firstly registered the Discord, and Discord told me, "Hey, do you know you could found a server and it's free back then?" So I did it, and then because with the limited resource, I just like, okay, there are not many lighting artists, right? So I'm gonna casually build up a lighting artist focused Discord. Of course, every discipline is welcome.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I posted my little soul non-professional message on my LinkedIn. I'm saying, hey guys, Discord says the server is free, so I found this guy. If you are lighter, join me. I went to sleep. I was on my annual holiday. I think it was summer. So I went to sleep and then I wake up. There are 500 people in my Discord server. I'm like, what
Wow.
am I supposed to do with this now? I was
Wow.
joking. I was joking with my friend. Oh my God, now I must under sort of watch list somewhere. Then yeah, but my friend said, "Hey Maria, you said there's a like a lighting focused Discord," and eventually I think I wouldn't take this credit, but more and more, like more of my friends in the industry, they also found their own lighters Discord server. People start sharing ideas,
Mm,
get courses, offer like job opportunities,
mm,
like somebody's hiring, or you finished your personal work
mm.
and just show this to us, and we will always share, like cheering for you. And a while ago, I had my Discord server since 2021 or 22, I believe, and it's still running. So these days, like last month, I just arranged like a casual picnic in Greenwich. I was like, everybody's welcome. Then I got like a fellow lighters,
Mm.
and also I got to know lots of fresh talent because in London we have the amazing Escape Studio. So I got lots of students who says like, Maria, can we come in? We're not like find a job yet. We're learning. I'm like, just come, guys. We're having fun. So
That's
there's
awesome.
nothing super serious. Like you don't have to be a senpai, like what they say in Japanese. You don't have to be a senpai, but to me, it's like, well, you're just like years before me. That's like a Maria point oh 0.05 or something version. So yeah, I always love to talk to people who is interested to this profession, regardless to their level, because I think that's how I feel when I just joined the industry, and I remember how difficult to swimming through the cold water, especially find a job abroad. So yeah, I'm happy to see guys got more resources these days.
That's awesome. Is
Mm.
anybody invited for the anybody who's
Mm.
hearing this? Can they get to the Discord? Can we share an invite with
Yeah,
them?
I will leave the channel like over there because
Mm.
usually my invite will have like a certain vet. So if anybody joins my Discord channel, you are more than welcome.
Mhm.
But of course, be nice to others. And also, we have a social channel to share your portfolio
That's
or
nice.
LinkedIn or where are you working. But that's just to prevent, sometimes we get scammers. You don't want the people get in and post
Of
toxic
course.
ads over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to vet everybody. But yeah, so far so good. I still get newcomers every time if I publish my personal work. I'm very happy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm gonna leave the
Mm.
link in the description below for sure.
Yeah, we
We're
could do that. Yeah.
we're reaching our 14
Mm.
minutes, like the last 14
Mm-hmm.
minutes. So I'm gonna maybe dive in a little bit with personal questions about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and one of which, when I was, researching
Mm.
your journey, I've noticed that you overcame cancer, which is a very inspiring story. And you went through two surgeries, is that correct, during your career?
Yeah, two surgeries actually. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
But the first one, well, it comes of nowhere. It's like literally out of nowhere, guys. Because I can tell, like, I was still working in California, so in Santa Monica, and of course it's such a sunny place. And there's a day I just went to, usual check, general check, and then my doctor told me like there's a little more on your arm. It doesn't look correct, like. It doesn't look so right. So
Mm,
let's have a look. So I did a removal that was really minor, and then they sent them to the lab. And 2 days later, I got a call, and the nurse, the lovely lady, she told me like, "Oh, Maria, I have a bad news for you, but don't be surprised, don't be shocked because it's fixable." So I'm
mm,
like, "Okay, whatever it is, like, tell me about it."
mm,
Then she explains basically they found some cancer cell in that place. So I'm like, "Okay, can we trim them out?" And then yes, it does. So back then, because I've already like been America for about a year,
mm,
and London isn't, it doesn't has that amount of sun. I don't even go out very often because it's not hot. I
mm,
have no idea how I get it,
mm.
but I'm glad it's fixable. And also compared to who, like, I do have like other very respective artists, like they're my art directors or like my previous co-workers. They went through way more serious conditions than that. So when I learned about this news, I was actually pretty calm. The only thing was like, okay, I'm gonna share this with my family once the surgery is done, so you
Mm.
don't have to, panic your parents, because we both know how Asian parents could react with the word. As soon as I heard the word, basically you're on like a sentence test or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just don't. The last thing I need back then, I was telling myself, okay, Maria, this is fine. It's fixable. It's just a bug. We get him fixed. The doctor gonna do the job. So yeah, I was trying to keep really calm. The only funny outcome was my dermatologist. Yeah, it is really funny, and he tells me lots of jokes while we're having the surgery, which I really appreciate. But he's telling me this is a mini surgery, and at the end of the surgery, I got like that's my second surgery already. So at the end, it said, "Oh, there are just 32 stitches." So I am not a surgery. I have no idea, but I would like it doesn't sound like the mini surgery. You wouldn't get like 33-ish stitches out of that. And then he told me a cupcake joke. I was like literally cracking while it's still bleeding
Oh
right now. So it's
no.
really funny. No,
Yeah.
it's very funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry about the bleeding part, but it's quite funny because he was like, "Do you remember when you buy cupcake, like the big cups, they say American size and industrial size? So I'm afraid this is like American size mini surgery."
Ah.
We just like laugh him out. So I think
Wow.
it's really a mindset. But thankfully, thanks for asking though. It's not like a minor, but to any of our audience, if you are going through a difficult health situation, and if that affect your work, I would say like take care of yourself first, because that's all we need. You need to keep yourself running first, and then continue to fetch the gym. And the last thing I wish to share is stay positive.
Yeah, I think that's
Mm,
like one of the things that we could control, and some things we can't control in life. But we could control to just stay positive and see the best in things. But you're an inspiration in that, and I appreciate you sharing it with other people, especially. There might be someone who going through the same thing, regardless of
yeah.
being in the industry or different industries.
Hmm.
But I feel like we need to put the voices out there with people with certain experiences as yourself, and
Absolutely. Mm.
get it out there so people can feel empowered. Yeah. So I wanted to also ask about if that have shaped your creative work, creative voice going forward. Have you felt like, all right, I have a responsibility now to do X, Y, Z? How did that change?
Oh, I think I am a very like I live in my own world.
Mm.
That's the best terminology I could like describe by myself. So back after that, the only thing is like for a while, because of course it's a surgery, it left a scar. So sometimes I will be a bit hesitated, and also I am like I'm into alternative fashion. That's the way how I dress every day. So I'm into the Japanese Lolita fashion. So basically, it's a mix of Victorian and cute fashion.
Yeah,
I do feel like dress up like cheers me up, and I really don't care how people on the street says me. But London is a fashion capital, so thankfully this is absolutely okay. And for responsibility wise, my personal work is always about my life or my experience, because it could be like the one on the screen right now is actually I take inspiration from the Nightmare Alley. That is a movie from Guillermo del Toro, and usually I just do whatever excites me for my personal work. And most of the emotion side comes with my personal life. So without like, reveal too much detail,
of course.
I prefer to express the feeling. It's like if it's positive, sad, unforgiven or unforgettable or some nostalgia. So I just tend to turn positive and negative no power or energy into my art, because I think that's a very healthy way to
Yeah,
express the feeling, because life will always be challenging and everybody has their own different like story.
of
And
course.
years ago when I was still in art school, I remember my professor was like joking, says a good artist doesn't have to paint well, but he or she has to make the paint to make people think. So I think that's kind of my creative create. It's like if we could deliver certain look or certain emotion with visual language, not writing emotional post because we are not emotional speaker or powerful like speakers. But if we do art, just transfer your energy, whether they are negative or positive, into your creative journey. I think when the work speaks itself, and that is like the elaboration of like my own artistic journey. That's all I could tell. I hope it makes sense.
Oh yeah, of course it does. And we're reaching now to the end, and so we have 5 minutes left. And I wanted to ask you what I ask every guest: is there anything you would like to tell the people about, promote,
Mm.
maybe direct them towards something? Let us know your.
Yeah. So for people who, I believe most of people who take this like a podcast to spend time, first of all, thank you for listening all of those conversation, and thanks to you as well, Jake, for having me. But if you're looking for relative study, because I usually do the learning notes on my blog, which is mariayue.com. So I will leave the link with Jake
Of
later.
course.
Also, I do like occasionally do lots of LinkedIn like a post about my learning journey, and till these days, I still do lots of personal work just for the same reason, express myself because I enjoy what I do, so that it will be my art station. But course-wise, yeah, you will find most of my course on the art station store, the including free one and paid one. And I'm about to launch the latest course very soon. That will be the last part of the journey of illusion. So that's the name of my medium to like senior level lighting design and lighting workflow
Mm.
training source. So the first two is already out, but I was traveling around Venice and Amsterdam, lots of like Renaissance old hometown just to gathering the experience.
Mm.
So in the latest course, you will have me talk about a certain type of classical like painting style lighting design.
Mm. Alyssa, Maria, this was incredible.
Mm.
Your blend of like technical clarity or lighting clarity, if you might add, and artistic heart like really shines through. I want to thank you again for showing up and empowering other people to maybe just chase what they wanted in life and sharing your perspective so openly and honestly as well. And for everyone who is listening, check out Maria's work. The link below and all the stuff that we mentioned throughout the episode will also be in the description. Leave your comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. As always, I'm Jack the Generalist, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.